Thanks for checking out SYMFONI on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.
Nigerians are waiting and they seem disappointed with what happened at the National Assembly over the electronic transmission of results in the electoral amendment bill. What happened really? Could you tell us?
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigerians, again. You know, it has been a very long journey, a very long one. Long, tortuous, and filled with hope that Nigerians will be able to have persons in government that actually represent their interests. And the process will not be that cumbersome and dangerous. Because over the years, the point where you have so much tension, so much injustices meted out to Nigerians are always at the point of collating these results. And INEC had tried to improve upon the system, had used it in Nasarawa State during one of the by-elections, had also used it in Edo State and used it in Ondo State. What did they do? They simply made it possible for results to leave the polling units direct to the point of collation without anybody having to tamper with it. That does not exclude the manual recordings. Of course, the papers will be there. What you do is you compare the figures. If what has been transmitted and what is on the paper are the same. And once you get that done, it solves the problem. Remember the incident at INEC State Office in Port Harcourt during the 2019 governorship election, where some persons using whatever advantages they had mobilized the entire Nigerian military under the guise of they claimed that they were not soldiers or whatever, I don't know, but they would take the result sheets and run into a government formation, a military formation. These are the things that we had intended to discourage and to put a stop to. So that once you vote, it will become very obvious that, look, this is the person that we have voted for. These are the figures that were generated. It will also help to stop or reduce litigations. We are talking about not having enough resources. INEC spends so much defending positions in court after elections have been won and lost. But if this comes to be, it will certainly reduce the level of litigation, because you'll be sure that these are the figures that you got. If you win, you know you have the popular vote. And that will also impress on whoever holds that position to be responsive to the wishes, desires, and aspirations of those that voted him. And that will improve governance. I don't know why anybody would be against such a process, would be against such a procedure, would be against such a principle, such a law, such an enactment. I don't know why anybody should be against it.
You say you don't know why.
What? Yes, I don't.
Those who voted against it gave reasons. And one of the reasons is that the whole country is not properly covered network-wise, and so it will be disenfranchising some people who intend to, you know, participate in the electoral process. Is that a valid point? I
don't think that point is valid, even to the most elemental of humans. That point can never be valid. Do you take Panadol because your mother is sick? Would you take Panadol to cure your mother's headache? It is not the responsibility of anybody sitting in the chambers, whether Senate or House of Representatives, to determine whether there is coverage or not. Those whose responsibility it is to transmit the result have, over time, repeatedly assured Nigerians and told Nigerians that they have the capacity to transmit these results. One of them was on air, I think on Saturday channels, reassuring Nigerians that they have the capacity. I also understand that one of such persons was supposed to be here on AIT. Probably the powers that be recalled him on his way to AIT to come and tell Nigerians that yes, they have the capacity. We hold INEC responsible. That is their function. It is not the duty of any man, no matter how highly placed, no matter how low you are, to begin to take Panadol because you think, it's a perception, you think INEC has headache. as at 2018, there is a report, an assessment jointly carried out between INEC and NCC, Nigerian Communications Commission, which indicated that out of the 119,000 polling units as at that time, only 8,000 were not effectively covered. So whoever came and told any story was just telling barefaced lies. And we challenge that person to a public debate. We challenge NCC to a public debate. You did a fact check. I watched AIT. You did a fact check which revealed that indeed the coverage is well over 90% as we speak.
89%.
89%
for 2Gs.
As we speak.
And 74% for 3Gs.
Thank you very much for educating and enlightening Nigerians. So even if there is a gap, assuming but not consider there is a gap, what is the USPF fund meant for? In 2003, as part of the NCC Act, they take 2.5% profit after tax of all networks to intervene and provide services where there are gaps. Where has the money gone to? It takes less than 2 months, less than 8 weeks to deploy a station. So it simply means that what we have seen has already been pre-planned. And Nigerians should stand up.
I'll take you up on that, Honorable Abiante, because I remember having a conversation with you over a year ago, and you talked about, raised concerns about this electoral amendment bill being passed. But let's bring in our other guests on the program, Honorable Yunusa Abubakar. I hope your network is clear and you can hear us very well now. Honorable Abubakar, can you hear me? Fantastic. Let me start by asking how you voted in the electoral amendment bill, especially that controversial clause, section 52 of the electoral amendment bill. How did you vote on that? Were you for e-transmission of results or not?
Well, good morning, and I welcome my friend and my colleague, Abiante.
Thank you very much.
To answer your question, yes, we are for electronic voting if all the conditions that are in place can warrant that. Nobody is against electronic transmission. But if you look at the way we voted in the House of Representatives, is that we did not condemn or go against the electronic voting. There are two issues there, or only one issue in that section. That's section 52, subsection 2. The issue of shall and may. When you say shall, is mandatory. Everybody knows that. And then the issue of may. Now we voted for may. INEC may. So the amendment that we sought for is may, not shall. That is what we voted. They may use electronic voting if the conditions warrant. What our other people, the minorities, are saying is that it should be shall. Abiante has just concluded speaking about some of the problems militating about the system that was put in place in terms of communication. He just mentioned that it took INEC there are so many factors that is militating. So we don't want to jeopardize a system that will determine the leadership of a nation of over 200 million Nigerians. For goodness sake, when you are talking Nigerians, who are the Nigerians? We in the National Assembly or in the House of Representatives, 360 delineations, constituencies. No constituency that is vacant as of the time we did that voting. In democracy, minority have their says and the majority have their ways. So when you are talking Nigerians, those people that are in the majority that voted in favor of May, are they not Nigerians? For goodness sake, spare us that crap. when you say Nigerians, you are Nigerian, I am Nigerian. And it is the Nigerian constitution, it is the Nigerian system that provided for this democratic system, where it's a game of number. Yes, everybody is Nigeria, but more majority Nigerians through their representative who were duly elected and certified to represent. Abiente is representing a constituency. I am representing a constituency. So the constituencies came, and majority constituencies voted for me. That is, it's at the discretion of INEC. We should allow them to set guidelines. If INEC feels at the time of any election, they are in a position, when I say can, I mean they have the ability to transmit electronically, then they can. So we leave it here because the system, today it is on, tomorrow it is not on, depending on the fault of the electronics system, like the communication system. The Right Honorable Speaker have asked the NCC EVC, Executive Vice Chairman, that look, NCC, if there is a fault, how long will it take you to clear that fault? You say it depends on the type of fault. It could be in hours, it could be in days, it could be in weeks. And he was also asked that issue of you transmit, let it remain days. Then when network comes back, for instance, the system goes, he say, no, you cannot guarantee. It is 100% guaranteed. So there are so many issues that are surrounding the electronic transmission, because the electronic transmission is pivoted, is being, premised on a basis of communication arrangement that we have in the country. So if you cannot transmit that data, it may fail. Even SMS from bank, a lot of people now, this so-called SMS, they will transfer to somebody. If you rely on the MSS, 30 to 40% of people will say, look, you have not sent the money because I have not seen SMS. Where you check your balance and you see the money is in your account. What we are saying in essence, we did not rule out the electronic voting, but we say may. And at least this is a graduation, a positive graduation from the former
okay. Honorable Abubakar,
in the previous elections.
Honorable,
so at least Nigerians have hope. We have hope there that by the time our system is better, look, I knew before I came to the National Assembly, my company, before I resigned, was responsible for network availability of Globacom network. Ask them, they know me. So I know how the system, these people that are responsible for Globacom network availability or all the communication, MTN, 9 Mobile, whatever, they have all these contractors that provide it, and essentially is to ensure power.
Honorable Abubakar,
in the 19th state and in the West too.
Honorable Abubakar,
of the
can you hear me?
Base are not hooked to the national grid.
Okay.
Some are using solar, some are using, mostly 70% of them are using AGO, diesel generators.
All right.
The generators can fall. Once there is just no power there, no network.
Okay.
And we are talking of elections. We are not talking of state capitals. We are not talking of local government headquarters. We are talking of remote villages where polling units exist. INEC has just added how many polling units? So all these remote areas. So if we now restrict it and make it watertight, that it must be electronically transmitted, you are jeopardizing majority of the Nigerians that are
Honorable Abubakar,
in these rural areas.
Great.
So what we are trying
just a minute. I'm still on you.
Yes. He
doesn't seem to be hearing us at all.
Wanted to be mandated. Majority of Nigerians, through their respective representatives, have voted for May. So that it is at the discretion of INEC. For goodness sake, what is INEC? Independent national.
Could you allow this to be a conversation, an interview?
You allow them to set guidelines.
Mr. Abubakar, could you allow this to be an interview so you can take my further questions and run with it as well? May I ask where you are joining us from?
I'm joining you from Gombe.
Where exactly in Gombe?
In the state capital.
Okay, so that's
where my house. I came for Salah when I was reached out to appear and I volunteer. I say yes. I am representing Yamal Tudeba, remote area. In my constituency, we have only mass in the local government headquarters and then along the line. So only villages that are along the Strong A Road, Gombe to View, that are privileged to have network. All others are scavenging. My own village, Gongong, it was recently that we have an Airtel mass near us. And that one, it is on today, 2 days it is off.
Okay, so you have network in your village, that's what you're saying?
Yes, we now just about 2 weeks that Airtel erected a mass around that area.
And the network where you're joining us from?
Just put somewhere so that people will be scavenging.
Great.
And in my own ward, we have over 20 or about 30 pooling units. Out of these 30 pooling units, only 10 can have access to network. What happened to the 20 and thereabout?
Have you done a study to indicate that actually only 10 can have?
I told you I'm a communication expert.
Has it been published?
I'm taking.
Has a study been published?
Like
is this something we can access?
Who is my neighbor in the chamber, my neighbor in the office? He knew me. We are in several committees. We are in science and technology. It's a science and tech, but not as me that specialize in communication. Now I'm taking from the vintage position of my knowledge.
Honorable, you specialize in communication, and you're also a member of the House of Representatives. Is it not an indictment on you that up till now some of your constituency communities are not, are not on that powerful network, even though we're hearing you clearly from where you are, meaning that the state capital has a strong network? Is it not something you should have pushed for your community even before now?
Well, my sister, you are talking about the system. We are not part of the executive, and governance is of continuous nature. It is the duty of the executive through their various agencies to provide services. You are now asking me, what have I done?
But you can lobby. You can lobby to get things done for your constituency, can't you?
What we did.
That question she asked is valid, because before now you have said,
depending on the availability of funds.
Yes, before now.
Holding brief for the executive, but we were talking based on realities on ground.
Okay, beyond what you can do.
This is something that it is a must done.
Okay.
So must we wait not to do electronic voting until when we have communication? Nigeria has been existing even after independence 1960. Till when do we have this communication facilities in ground, apart from our moribund nights that we were using? Was it not 2000? Was it not during Olusegun Obasanjo, the president,
Mr. Abubakar,
that brought in this communication? And then there was this barrier with some difficulty. I bought my SIM card 27,000, and all of us that did it between 2000 2001, they are buying SIM card at exorbitant. Now SIM cards are like free. So it's graduation. If today the situation on ground will not warrant electronic voting, why do you want to jeopardize the system of governance, the process that will produce your leaders?
All right.
Simply because the executive did not provide network. And I will now say, okay,
it's not the executive.
Even if I'm talking to them, I have to do.
Can you take this question? Can you just pause for a moment and take this question?
They are fine. That's what you say, me. And even the legislative process, we amended the electoral law now. When we resume, when the House is in plenary, ABNT can propose an amendment to remove that may, so that shall can be there. If we have the majority, so be it.
Okay.
Convince Nigerians.
Okay. We've heard you.
The majority of Nigerians says
we've heard you
in rural areas that this system of the communication is not yet well in place. You are talking of 2G. You are talking of 3G. Why did we graduate from 3G, 4G, and 5G?
All right.
Because 5G is the fastest.
You have said something.
We don't want to allow room.
Honorable,
can you just take a pause? Can you just take a pause, please? Could you take a pause so we can ask you another question?
100% proof So as now, we don't want to speculate that there could be hackers. But that is not the system. Look at United States, 300 century.
Okay, okay, we've heard you. We might just have to switch the conversation to another person, since you are not ready to take a pause and take further question. Okay, right now, yes, maybe he should just take this before we come to Abiante. You said that before you became a member of the House of Reps, your company was responsible to ensure network coverage in for Glo Communications. I think that's the second biggest. Okay, all right. I understand he's still talking, so let's have Abiante respond to what you said.
Thank you very much again for this very wonderful opportunity. My friend, my very good friend, my neighbor, both in chambers and in the office area, has alluded to certain things that may not be 100% correct. He said that those who voted were in the majority. I would want to ask him how he determined that majority, because Nigerians saw what happened on Thursday. And what happened on Thursday essentially meant that certain aspects of our own rules were not followed through. When we get to a point where the decision of the presiding officer, whether chairman or speaker, is challenged, the ultimate thing to do, as contained in our rule books, would be to divide the House. What we mean by division is to make it abundantly clear in terms of numbers, just like the Senate did. As of today, Nigerians know how many senators were absent, how many senators abstained from voting, how many senators voted yes, and how many senators voted no. Do we have that record in the House of Representatives? The answer is a capital no. If, I challenge him, if we had taken a vote on this clause, we were in the majority, and we still remain in the majority. That is exactly why some of us...
Why was that not done?
That question will be better answered by the presiding officer.
That's the deputy speaker who
He would better answer it, because every attempt to call to the House, to call the House to order, based on Order 11, Rule 2, was jettisoned. And whatever voice votes that they had never reflected the true position of majority and minority. That is one. He talked about having some areas, pockets of areas that are not covered. And I stated here that as of 2018, INEC, in collaboration with NCC, admitted that they had a gap of about 8,000 polling units. I also made it abundantly clear that there is a fund, Nigerians' money, because what USPF takes is for the benefit of Nigeria and Nigerians. They take that 2.5% profit after tax of all the network providers. That fund is there. For last year, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it should be in the neighborhood of 15 billion. And the time to deploy a station is less than 8 weeks. How much time do we have between now and when the next elections will hold? Do we need to bother and flog the fact that if somebody has an ailment, the thing to do is not to consign the person to die because the person has that ailment. The wisest choice to make would be to seek solutions to the ailment. I hope I'm right. So if we have identified that there are areas which are in very tiny minority, the percentage of 8,000 compared to 119,000.
But that was before
it's definitely...
Honorable Biante, could it also be argued that at that time that, you know, decision was made, or that resolution was made, that gap of 8,000 were just, like you said, at 119,000 and some fractions of polling units nationwide. But following the recent delineation done by INEC, the number of polling units has increased to 190,000.
170, about 179,000.
179,000, yes. So does that also create a gap problem?
Where were these new units delineated from. I have, from my own existing unit, I have 3 extra units from my existing unit because the number of registered voters at that time was quite close to 2,000. And these 3 extra units were not located in the forest. They were still located within the same community, which simply means that the 3 extra units also would have network coverage. So the increase in the number does not in any way mean that we are going to have more. In fact, the percentage can even be better improved because the extra units are also located within. Apart from this challenge of the GSM providers, Nigeria invested so much money on a satellite. I think it's called is it NICOMSAT, Nigerian Communication Satellite. Where is the satellite? What role?
The recent information we had is that satellite has expired.
What role?
It needs to be reviewed.
Has it been brought down?
We can't afford to rely on that.
Has it been brought down? Okay. Even if Nigeria does not have that satellite, NICOMSAT working as of today, if I admit what you said, there are other satellite providers that Nigeria can just hook onto for the 2 days for the purpose of the election as backup. Because what we are saying is we have confirmed that look, we can do this. It is not a challenge to us. Sending text messages does not depend on 2G, 3G, or whatever. It's send text messages. And I believe that...
But this one goes beyond sending text messages. This one is understood would require a higher encryption than what text messages does.
Even at
which
that.
Means you need a bigger band of network to get that done.
You and I are not the ones that are going to get it done. The people whose responsibility it is to get it sorted out, to deliver to Nigerians the electronic transmission, always have continuously, up to Saturday, informed Nigerians that they have the capacity and the capability and the willingness to deliver. My friend and brother, let me suggest to his constituents that they should please appeal to him to provide mass as part of the constituency engagement because it will be preposterous for somebody who is an expert in the areas of communication to allow his people not to be in touch with the global community. I appeal to him. In fact, when we resume, I will personally go to him to further appeal to him to assist in getting this. Even areas that are challenging in other parts, if there are areas that are challenging my own constituency, I also appeal to him because he's an expert. He knows better than I do to help us get these things expanded.
Okay, maybe we allow UNISA a few seconds to round off. Honorable Abubakar.
Well, thank you very much.
Quickly, you have just 30 seconds to do this, sir.
Yeah, that he says he's appealing to me. Let me throw it back to you that we in the National Assembly, do we execute the function of the executive? Let me tell you, in issue of communication, which has been fully privatized, even the NCC, there's nowhere in the NCC Act that can mandate a GSM service provider to provide network to determine the location they are to provide services. NCC doesn't have.
Can you speak to the USP? Can you speak to the USPA fund?
And they are profit driven.
The USPA
they
fund.
Only erect their mass where they feel there could be subscribers, and then they make profit. So it is not a factor or a function of the executive or me to provide mass.
All right, Honorable Yusuf.
Yunusa. I lobby them and we got Airtel. I am also lobbying to get Globacom. But like I told you, it's a function of profit.
All right.
It's just like
thank you, Mr. Yunusa. That question became important because in the course of this interview, you said that your company was responsible for ensuring that the Glo network is available in different parts of the country. So one would have expected that you would have provided one for your constituents.